thanks for joining. Thanks for joining today, guys. So we've got Damien, we've got Angie in the background, and we've got Shams and Sophia. Two newcomers to the group. So thanks for coming.
Welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, happy to be here.
Yeah. So it's just awesome to have more and more people, more and more viewpoints, and that's what we want, to be able to see, I would say, in a more clear way, in a more balanced way. And my personal belief is that having conflicting viewpoints is vital, because it allows us to be humble with our own opinions and forces us to really look at things from a different point of view. And it makes us test ourselves in terms of, are we really trying to impose our own perspectives, or are we really trying to understand better? So if you feel resistance in the conversation, it's actually a good thing. But then it really tests us whether are we really on the path towards the truth or not. So I really welcome conflict. And it's also a good way to check your character also, like your own personality, your traits. Are you as humble and selfless as you claim you are? Because when you start to react, then it means I've got more work to do on this. So I just welcome these conversations. So just like last week, we're going to start with a story, all right? Because I think everyone loves stories. And yeah, laughing, Damien. So the topic is money, power, and enlightenment. Because there is a link between these three, which we're not going to talk about right now. We're going to let it come up on its own as we discuss. So we're going to introduce that topic with a story. And the story is a Buddhist one because of my own Zen background. And the story is about a man who sold a dead mouse. Okay? So what happens in the story? Yeah, it is. About a man who sold a dead mouse. So there was a poor man, okay, in a village. He was walking like barefoot, torn clothes, and all that. Had no direction in life, was very poor. And as he was walking, there was a rich man who came to the village at that point in time, and he had a dead mouse in his hand. And he was saying that, you know, if you have determination and confidence and you work hard, even with a dead mouse, you can become rich just like me. And then he just threw that dead mouse on the ground, and then he went away. Okay? There are many ways to interpret that. We won't go there right now. But what happened is the man took the dead mouse and then said, okay, that's what the rich man said. And let me give it a try. What can I really do with the dead mouse? So he starts to walk. And then he goes to the market. And in the market, there's another rich man with a pet cat in his lap. Okay. And then he goes to the rich man and tells him that I've got a dead mouse with me, which is like delicious food for your cat. Would you like to trade? And I give you the mouse and you give me a few cents. And then the rich man said, yeah, why not? So he gives the mouse and then receives a few cents. Then he's happy, okay, it's the first time he earned money, so he's all pumped. So he takes the money, doesn't spend it, and then he walks, and then he comes across like a stall where they're selling peanuts. So he buys some peanuts from the sense. And then he walks towards the forest, and he knows that in the forest, the people who work for the king, they come at a certain time to pick flowers to bring for the king. So he stays there and observes, and he sees that the men they come from the king's palace. So they come in the forest, they start to pick flowers, and then he trades the peanuts. He said, okay, I'll give you some peanuts and some fresh water. He got some water from a well. I'm selling those things. Are you guys interested? And they said, yeah, why not? We're tired and we're quite thirsty too. So they buy peanuts from him, and then he gets more money. And now, within a few hours, from nothing, he has like a good sum of money with him. He said, yeah, that's cool. It's kind of working slowly. So he takes that money, and then now he knows that if he walks, there's a port where goods are delivered and merchants go there to buy, and then they can sell in the villages. So he goes there really early the next day, like let's say the goods come at 6 a.m. He goes there at 5 a.m. and waits to be the first person, okay, to get those goods. So he buys as much as he can with the money he has. And then there are people who come late, like merchants who come late to the port. So he sells them the same goods but double the price he bought. Okay, because they came late and they've got no choice because they're going to sell at the end of the price anyway. So he sells those things double the price. And he realized that from nothing now, he's someone who has, who has enough money. He can buy food. He's okay if he does that every day. He's actually okay as a person. So he does that for 3 years. Okay, and within 3 years, he's like upper middle class in the village. He's got a house. He's got enough money. He's got savings, and he's good. So he tells himself that, okay, now really you need to go and find that rich man who threw that mouse, because I really need to thank him because he feels so grateful, about what he's achieved. He really wants to pay it back. So he finds that rich man, and then he goes there and tells him, that's my story, and I was so inspired by what you did that day. I don't know why you did it, but I got so inspired by that, and this is where I am. And then the rich man said that you've got so much discipline, determination, and you took wisdom, and even if you're now well settled, you're still a kind man, a good man, and you're so grateful you came to find me back. You're not trying to become more rich than me. You're just grateful that you had that piece of advice. And I was looking for a man like you for my daughter. So what happens now? That's a story which has been told. So it has that fairy tale dimension to it. So the rich man marries his daughter to the guy, and then he just becomes one of the richest men in the town or village or whatever. So that's a Buddhist story on wealth, actually. So Buddhist guys have nothing against wealth, actually. It's like accumulated in healthy in an ethical way, I would say. So, Sham, you want to give your perspective on that? Sham and Sophia first.
Sure, I'll share a thought or two. The one thing you said at the end really resonated with me about it being gained in an ethical way, because what actually ended up making him the most wealthy, or actually throughout the whole thing, were his qualities and ethics. So his quality of taking advice, being humble enough to consider it deeply and act on it, even if it didn't make sense at the moment. Because he could have just been like, that's dumb. What would a dead mouth get anyone any money, and just kind of go off. And then obviously he was pretty hard worker. And then at the very end, it was his gratitude, his quality of gratitude that remained with him that actually got him into the highest echelons of society through marrying the rich man's daughter. So that was like the real wealth was really in the qualities, and then it seems like the physical wealth kind of followed or matched his inner qualities. Is kind of like one of the takeaways that I would have gotten from it that struck me. Yeah,
I actually agree. I think it's this, what I took away from this story was that it's got more to do with your state of being than with anything else. Like if you're in alignment, things unfold. It's just like you don't need, that saying, you don't need to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. Like this guy was in that state of being. He got himself there, he took the first step, and then the entire staircase unfolded, and he just kept himself in alignment, like by the sounds of it, and then it's like, actually, so what Damien was saying with the stairs, actually taking the stairs, like, kind of where you want to go, but you don't overthink the whole thing or think you need to figure out the whole staircase before you start. And again, it's the gratitude. I think being grateful for what you have, because not trying to constantly be better or have more, like being so grateful for where you are, which then opens up to the new thing and the next thing. Yeah, that's what I
think how I see it also is like that guy, the rich man, bought a bond. So the poor man was in a state, you know, that's how he lived his life, and the rich man came with an opportunity, a gift, and that he shared, and that gift was almost a spark in that individual, the poor man, in basically telling him, you can do anything you set your mind to, or you can achieve wealth if you just take the first steps. And in that and basically it sparked a curiosity within the poor man. And then he realized, he must have asked himself a question: how can I sell a rat? And then with the question comes the answer. And then he was like, okay, well, what can I do with a dead rat? Well, a cat, that makes sense. And then he was almost on a path of, the question is basically a question of how can I add value to society? And then so taking that nugget of wisdom, that rat, and saying, or the mouse, the small baby cute mouse that was lying there. So he basically said, yeah, okay, how can I add value? And went on this journey of following his excitement, really, because after that he reached the nuts, and he was like, okay, well, I want to acquire some nuts for whatever reason at that time. And then he asked himself the question: where can I go forward with this from this point of view? So as Corin was saying with the staircase, it's he wants to, well, let's say the goal is, he looked at the rich man and said, I want to be a rich man. Okay, cool. The rich man gave me a nugget of wisdom, and I want to achieve the top of the staircase, but I need to take step one. I don't imagine he was sitting there and he said to himself, oh my God, well, what if I sell this rat? Who's going to buy this rat? No one's going to buy this rat. Then he wouldn't have explored it. But then he was like, okay, let me ask this question. He couldn't have said, what would I do at step number 3? What would I do at step number 4? He just kind of went on the journey and trusted the process and allowed whatever came along the path, took action and continued with a mind, that curiosity. So I think he entertained the vibration, or he fueled the vibration of curiosity with gratitude as the core foundation. Love is the core foundation. So probably expanding on that, and then when he realized at a point, I'm a wealthy man, I'm a successful man, I've got this beautiful place, I've got this, I've got this wealth that I've accumulated, I feel good. But I think very importantly, he felt grateful. Whereas a lot of people then, because it amplifies your state of money, I would imagine amplifies your state of being, because all of a sudden you get this sense of power. Wow, I can buy 10 Lamborghinis. I can do these things. Well, is that the path of highest excitement, or is that what you think is? So then he stayed rooted in gratitude, and that's when he went back to the rich man and with gratitude and was like, thank you for sharing you're sharing your add value to me, and this is how now it's contagious, and this is how I can now add value to my reality around me, and essentially the world that I entertain. And now with the world, your power is amplified, because me and all of us here, we are all in different locations well, at the moment Mauritius. We can be from people, Shamsuddin's American, I'm South African, Shamsuddin's Egyptian, I'm Mauritian, Corin's South African, Angola, I'm Mauritian. Like, we're all here coexisting in different locations in this point of time, sharing. And that means is like our power is amplified. We can share, we can add value amplified. So I think this is why we're seeing a lot of wealthy people becoming extremely wealthy, because of the value they're adding into the world. Elon Musk, he's reached 250, listen to me, $260 billion, but I don't think his life is necessarily, he's got like 45 or 500 Rolls Royces or 35 jets. It's money is some form of energy, or potential energy is now being redirected into what he believes in, his passions, and to whatever his goals are at the top of the staircase. And he's got these funds, and he's just moving forward, and that's his excitement. So that's great. And we all have the power to kind of start from wherever we are, move forward, just like the guy with the poor man with the rat. You would think that's rock bottom, but is it really? Where are we ever? Like, yeah, it can be, but from that point forward, every single human on this planet is in a position. I mean, I say this from my perspective, but that's what I want to share, is to empower whoever else is listening to be able to realize, like, okay, whatever my circumstance right now, my focus will be me, and I can expand into whatever. As long as I have my imagination, I can close my eyes and believe, and I can continue on that path. So yeah, we have all the tools we need. Whether you are, wherever you are, we have all the tools that we need to achieve, experience whatever it is that we want to experience. So yeah.
Yeah, I really love that. I also just want to say, like, I think I love what you say about adding value. Like, I think, you know, when I've been at a couple of turning points in my career before, and I would ask myself the question, how can I be of service? How can I be of service? I would just ask that question, and then it answers itself. And next thing I know, I attract these people who I am perfect for, and I have exactly what it is they need, and I'm genuinely helping them. I'm not sitting there thinking on my own, well, what you know, what do I want to do? What do I want to bring to the world? Like, allow the path to tell you who to serve and how to serve. Don't try to come up with it in your own mind and then do it, because then all those doubts are going to come in. It's like that staircase thing. Like, don't preempt the whole thing. Take the step and then go, okay, how can I be of service? How can I add value? And then everything you need to do that comes to you. And then all that energy you put into that comes back to you. So it's like this constant. So I say, like, I know you were saying, as long as you have imagination and you can envision, and I also want to add to that, if you open your heart, as long as you have an open heart too, because that for me is a huge, huge part of this, you know, the quality of that energy has to do with an open heart, I think.
So I had an interesting insight that's a little bit different, because you say to add value, but one thing I noticed in the story, and I'm just kind of thinking out loud, I'm curious what everyone thinks, is that he basically like took things from where they weren't valuable and just moved them to somewhere where they were. So like that dead mouse just existed, and sitting on the floor there didn't have any value, at least not to him. But what he did is he just moved it to where this guy with the cat is. And in that place, it did have value. And then even with the stuff that he bought and then sold later in the day, he kind of moved it through time, even if it was the same location. It didn't have value at this time. And this reminded me of like stock trading, because I know you're into that, Damien. It didn't have value at this time, but just waiting, get it then and then wait later, and it has value. And then even the advice, like on a non-physical level, the advice of the rich man in the beginning, if spoken into a vacuum, if no one was around, it wouldn't have any value, but in the right place, it did have value. So I think there is something to adding value too, but I just was thinking from that story, I noticed that like he basically just moved things from place to place, and they increased in value during that journey. So yeah, I don't know. I'm curious if that strikes you guys in any particular way.
It's amazing. I mean, you guys covered like some great points, and I think we can all agree on those points. What can I possibly add to that amazing conversation now?
When you first heard the story, so I'm curious, when you first heard the story, what was your main takeaway?
Okay.
You remember?
It was about determination. Finding opportunity when it comes to you. Like you mentioned that clearly, that this was just spoken to everyone, but the guy picked it up, right? So he recognized that there's something there. And I think this is what happens to us. There are opportunities like in front of us, and do we really want to see them? Like even with the COVID thing, do we want to see it like something which is bad for us? Or do we want to see it like an opportunity to try new things and shift our mindset and, you know, change our lives accordingly? Because we have no choice. For certain things happen, and then we adapt, right? We change. So, but there's also something else. He never complains in the story. The guy, he doesn't say, I'm born poor, why me? Why other people are living good life? There's no complaint. I mean, He's trying to sort things out, but at no point it mentions that he's complaining about his life, or he's talking to God, or asking him why you put me in that situation. So he takes responsibility, he tries things, and then slowly, step by step. So like Sophia mentioned, you don't need to see the whole staircase, and that's how life is. I mean, I've got an issue with these 10-year plans, you know, which people sometimes do. Like, do you really can plan that far? You can have a short-term plan, obviously. You can plan the next day, but I don't think we can plan like way into the future like that. You don't know, you don't have all the parameters. Anyway, but I think he worked really hard with what was given to him. And it really starts from ground zero, like a dead mouse. Everything starts with that. So there is something in Zen where we say that everything is sacred, that everything around us. So this is a clear example of how a dead mouse was very sacred, like everything started from there. And the person had no hesitation to like sell a dead mouse to someone to get a few cents. So he takes responsibility, and actually he's fine with doing the mundane tasks. Like, I mean, sometimes we forget that, we think that, you know, we won't do that because it's like another level of task. But I remember like the founder of Zen, who's a guy called Dogen. Okay, I come from the same lineage actually. So even when he became like the Zen master, he would still go in the garden and dig and plant and uproot things. And when his students saw him doing that, they told him, "Oh, you're the Zen master, you should be there in meditation." And we all come around, "Why are you doing these mundane tasks?" And then he said that, "No, you don't understand it. This is the path. It's doing the most mundane thing." So you'll see that in the Zen tradition, the guys use the broom, the clean, the tidy things up. It's like training, because it forces you to treat everything as sacred, like brushing your teeth, going to work, talking to people. Everything is sacred and should be treated with the highest respect. So maybe it's something we forget at times. We have like a hierarchy of what are the things which we think are important and what are the things which are not important. But yeah, if we treat everything with respect, and I really like something which Sophia mentioned, which was about opening your heart, right, to the world. And in Zen, we call it the right intent, which is one of the things in the Eightfold Path, actually. So sometimes there are situations where you use reasoning, you use logic, and you don't really know that, did I do the right thing, or is the other person right? Sometimes we have that in clash of ideas, like say with people where we're debating ideas. And sometimes you're totally confused. Did I really do the right thing? This person is hurt. Like, sometimes it's very hard to figure things out. So the only parameter we have, which really makes things clear, is you ask yourself, okay, what was my intent when I did it? Did I have the right intent? If you can answer honestly yes, then okay, it's fine, whatever happened. My intent was right. But if your intent was not too good, then you know, okay, you've got things to work on. You take responsibility and you change things. So that's my take from the story.